Hey family, today I wanted to talk about Coptic, Coptic, Coptic Egypt. All right, the paintings that were in Coptic Egypt, and this is again from the book of Art of the Byzantine Era by David Talbot Rice. Now, Coptic Egypt, we're gonna read about that. It says the great mosaics of the Byzantine world, the wall paintings of Coptic Egypt, or the Balkans, the sculptures that adorn the tympana, or even the entire facades of many a church in Armenia and Georgia are all on a major scale. So we even had paintings in Armenia and Georgia, Russia, and that will be considered northeast of Jerusalem, of Israel. So we had people from all over representing the Israelites, representing the Jews in art and in respect. That's why today we still know the name Jesus. That's why we still know of that man's story and what he lived for. But Coptic Egypt, you have to imagine Egypt at this time has already been overran by the Greeks, the Romans, you know. And so they had capitals there. You've had emperors, Greek emperors rule there, you know. And so they have a history of being influenced by different cultures. They have a history of not being Egypt as a whole. That city, that area, it has a history of not being traditional. We're gonna see it in the art as well. So it says Coptic Egypt. Now it talks about, it says this does not mean, because Alexandria, the Alexandrian art, that was where the more royal Israelites, the ones that were keeping the laws, the ones that wanted to be more strict, those were the people that painted the paintings with such artistry, with such beauty. But when you go outside of that capital, outside of that area, that region, you'll start to see people put their different types of influences. And that comes from their background and their own personal religion. Because the Byzantine Empire was one of the first great melting pots of this century, or of this millennia, let me put it that way, of last millennia. You know, that was a great melting pot. And right after Christ had died. And so what you had was a mixture of different people of different religions, and they all came together. And so you see a lot of pagan examples through art. And so I'm gonna go ahead and get to it right here. They're trying to represent Christ, but at the same time they have this inside of them to where they're gonna do different things. And the author David Talbot Rice is gonna go in on that too. Like right here, it says, outside Alexandria, the classical elegance tended to give way to a markedly voluptuous rendering, suggestive almost of Indian art. It distinguished the ivories of Lower Egypt and was present also in the textiles, but it was perhaps nowhere as marked as in the limestone carving, which was developed almost as a national art in the region of the Delta between the 5th and 7th century. The fat, luscious nudes were wholly distinct from the severe, almost stylized figures favored at Constantinople at the same period. Excuse me. So look at this right here. This says Coptic ivory, Apollo and Daphne, 6th century. And the camera right there. The subject in wholly classical, in the treatment mainly so. It was probably carved at Alexandria, where the classical style long survived. You see this? But the influence comes from where? From Coptic Egypt. This is their thing. A lot of the carvings that you will see come from Egypt, and you could tell in their style as well. Now look at this picture though right here. This is supposed to be Christian art. It's supposed to be at that same time period, but what they did is they went off and they made a a picture of Apollo and Daphne. Some people, they may not know. They may say that's Adam and Eve. You know, this right here is not representative of the Most High at all. When you start seeing naked people, this comes from other nations that do not, that aren't Israel. This comes from other nations that go after their own lust. You know, they like to see luscious nudes. So this is what you're gonna see right here. See the man's private parts, the woman's private parts exposed. You see it looks like a baby angel up in the sky. You see, this is where these things started. You see this kind of swan right here in the middle. It doesn't even make sense. This is strange because these are people that worshipped another god, but they still had something to do with the Israelites, just like in 2 Kings 17. When the other nations came and took over Israel for the first time, they worshiped God. At the same time, they worshiped their own idols. It's the same thing going on here after Christ died. It says, carving in limestone, Coptic, 6th century. The exuberant style, suggestive almost of Indian art, was especially popular in Egypt from the 5th century until the Islamic conquest around 640. So you see this right here. This is going to play on senses, being sensual, showing naked women. This is like porn. It's the same thing as porn, basically, because when you look on the screen, you look at something and it's naked women, you know, it's not real. You know, you look at porn, that's not real. That happened a long time ago, whatever. You know, and you looking at it today. Same thing like this. This was painted or carved a long time ago, and it's still here, and it's still playing on men's senses to be carnal. You know. And this in no way represents the Most High. But this is what was going on, and this is what people see from this time period. And that's why you'll see in the Renaissance era, you'll see Christ naked. You'll see in a totally different color as well. We'll get more on that. You'll see Christ looking different. You'll see the Most High naked. You'll see angels like this floating above. That's naked. Like, that is wrong. That's disgusting. You know. So these artists, they did paint of the people in the Bible, but then they will go off and do things like this and just like merge it and make things blurry. Again, here goes some more. This is Pixis, 6th century. The reclining figure represents, and this camera. The reclining figure represents the allegory of the Nile and determines the Egyptian origin of the ivory. So this right here is just a man chilling right here. But this is pagan art. You see? It's a man chilling. I wish I could see it better. And it has like a little kid on his leg. If you can see, baby, and you see like a man right there. So, yeah. Then you go right here though. Pixis bearing a figure of Saint Menes in a niche, his hands raised in prayer. So see right here, art is good for learning even customs of the Bible, because this is how you pray. You pray with your hands. There you go, a better picture. You pray with your hands up. When they prayed, they didn't pray with their hands held together and the eyes closed, you know, like that. Everybody's looking down, and it wasn't like that. I mean, you can kneel, you can bow your head, right? But the whole holding hands in a circle, that's not how Christians, Israelites who believed on Christ, that's not how they got down. You know? So it says his principal shrine was near Alexandria. So yeah, back to these carvings and the paintings, the Alexandrian and the and Egyptians, both of them would do carvings, but Egypt will be more famous for this. Right here again, it's another one. You know, This one I went over yesterday, and this one, let me go down to it. It says multiple diptych of ivory in the center in a figure of Christ enthroned. So as we see Christ right there enthroned, it says he is beardless, as he often was at this date. The bearded variant only became universal later under Eastern influence. So, okay, so this is Christ again. I showed y'all this yesterday. Oh, what's up, my camera? But yeah, he doesn't have a beard. The guy next to him does, but he doesn't. And this camera's tripping today. And so, let me go to another. Well, I'll read right here. It says, a good many other important ivories have at one time or another also been attributed to Alexandria. Outstanding among them is a multiple diptych from Murano, now in the Ravenna Museum. It is made up of 5 panels. On the central one, Christ appears beardless, following the tradition of early Christian art. Christ would have, and when it says following the tradition, it, like it said earlier, like it says, only became universal later. Or no, it says as he often, beardless, as he often was at this date. Right? So, because in the Bible, you can read like in 2 Samuel chapter 10. I believe it's verses, it's like 1 through 7 or 8. Some of David's men's beards were cut off. And he told them, he said, y'all wait at Jericho until your beards are fully grown, because it is a disgrace for a man not to have a beard. You know, it doesn't matter if you're a priest or not. It was a disgrace for men not to have their beards. Now, here goes another one. Now, this is supposed to be, let me go. Oh, yeah, because on this art, I ain't even gonna lie, this is amazing right here, because you have Christ and the disciples. Then you have Christ healing the blind. Right here. You have Christ healing the crazy boy. You know, and he took his spirit out and put it in pigs. That's why he's chained up right here. Those are chains. Because remember, it says Father chained him up. Because, you know, like today, when people have mental issues, they'll hit themselves or hit anybody. They'll just go crazy, you know. So, you know, nowadays we don't chain them up, though. But his dad chained him up. He's got to dodge nowadays. And right here, here's Lazarus. He's raising him up from the dead. And right here, you see the lame man that couldn't walk. He's saying, take up your bed and walk. You know, and up here you have angels. Right up here, you have 2 men on the side of them. And right here you have, when I first saw this, I was like, what is going on? Because that's the beast right there, big mouth, and that's a man just laying on him with his arm. Like, what's going on? You see the angel right there. Oh, that's Christ right there. And then you see the boat. I know it's hard to make out right now. But, oh, okay. This right here, this little squirrely, this right here was that whale. They drew him like a giant eel. You know, that's Jonah right there. And that's him right there, being in the belly of the whale. It says right here in his, where it says, he was over the palm trees. We'll read about on the other page. And that's an angel right there. But look at this. I like this too. Come on. Okay. 1, 2, 3. These are the 3 brothers in the burning bush. And who is that? Christ. Because all this is revolving around Christ, right? This is about Christ. Now it's going to throw some random Old Testament stories in here. See, back then, we actually had more knowledge than we do now. We've been destroyed, put in so much slavery. At this time, we were ruling. At this time, Jesus Christ had just died for us all, you know, a few hundred years before. And so we were strong at this point. We knew who we were. We were just not following the ways of God. So that's why the world is in the state it is now. But even this, though, this is disgusting. This is carnal. When you see pictures like this, it says, detail of the left-hand scene of the bottom panel, the one we was looking on the other page, of the ivory shown on page 17. The panel is devoted to the story of Jonah. Here he is shown resting under the gourd tree, the well beside him. You know, later on, Jonah will come out and he will be up under a tree. But this right here, this is carnal, and this is pagan. This is like similar to bestiality. You're looking at his disposition. You see? So my whole point of going over this and bringing that part out is, as we go over this history of the art, you're going to see certain influences, and you're going to see who's bringing the influences and why. You know, obviously, because you never hear of any Israelite being naked like this and resting on a well. Obviously, this is coming from a different a different mindset other than somebody who believes in God and Christ with their whole heart. You know, this reminds me of Rome, where Rome and Romulus, I forgot how you say their name, the two brothers that were born of a she-wolf, and there were men that were sucking on the breast of a wolf. The she-wolf, she raised them up, and that's how they became who they were. And the wolf made those, and the wolf, and I believe like Odin or Apollos, I forgot one of those dudes, or Odin or Hercules, one of them, they had sex with a wolf, whatever, and she had them with it. I forget that crazy story, but this is what it reminds me of, you know. And because that's the only time you're gonna be naked, like that is when it's when you're born, you know. So like, just chill like that. Come on now, you're gonna put some clothes on after that. And so, but these are the carvings. Here's another one. We went over this yesterday. This one, it says, multi-diptych of ivory, showing Christ enthroned in the center from his life around. Most are miracles. I'm going to read it. I'm going to read. Most are miracles. Here Christ is conceived as a dignified, bearded figure. See, dignified. See, why would it say dignified? Because it is a shame. Like it says in 2 Samuel chapter 10, that for a man to be without a beard, or like Leviticus 19, Leviticus 21, it's a shame. You see? So, you have so many influences, and it's really hard to understand who is painting things the right way. That's why you have to use scriptures. You have to use the Bible where they pulled these. All this comes from the Bible, so you have to read the Bible to understand what an Israelite or what these pictures should truly look like, because the scriptures will tell you. You know, it's no guessing. Here it is again, more carvings. Right here. I'm gonna jump. Yesterday I couldn't find it. Some more carvings right here. It says this on his third hand. It says the description says detail of back of Maximian's throne, the nativity. This is detail of back of Maximian's throne, the nativity. We all know about the nativity scene. This is an example of work by a third hand. The front panels and the scenes from the life of Joseph were carved by two other masters. See that? And that's a man giving a gift to Mary. That's that man giving a gift to Mary right there. That's Christ. That's his father, Joseph. You see the animals. You know. So, I wanted to get back to what I couldn't find yesterday, right before I close this out. And it says on page 24. I'll read from right here. It says the artist who illustrated the Paris Psalter, Bib Nat Graph 139 CFPP 178179 in the 9th century was thus owed a clear debt to Alexandria, those who adorned other Old Testament manuscripts, like the Cotton Bible in the British Museum, actually worked there. Just as a scribe's duty was to copy the text as faithfully as possible, so the illuminators copied the illumination. So the illuminators copied the illustrations. Adheredly closely to the old models. So remember, this is around the 5th and 6th century, the time period. So older models will be before that. Though they nonetheless saw them, as it were, through the spectacles of their own age. The style thus varied, but the arrangement and the composition of the pictures remained in the main constant. Meaning the way that they arranged the pictures, that remained the same. That's why you can see, like right here, this is St. Peter, but up the top 3, you got people surrounding. So you always, a lot of these compositions are the same, but the art varies. And it's the same. How? It's the same from the first pictures in Constantinople. But this is Coptic Egypt and the many different influences. And a lot of times when you'll see these, people will be naked. And that's going back to the artist's true nature, the artist's true religion. A lot of these men, and even if some of these are Israelites that are living in these areas, even if it is some of these people, they are still drawing from another nationalities, another races, desires, their influences, what they like to see, because that's what this was about. This is about merging. So they're like, okay, this is Christ. Well, he's showing little skin over here. Okay, Christ, you ain't got no beard on you over here. Okay, oh, y'all look a little bit more like me. Okay, I can accept this. And so that's what you start seeing, and it is documented. It is noted throughout history by many historians. Many people take a class called iconoclasm. These are icons. But basically, all that means is whitewashing, like you see right here. But I'm about to go. I'll be back with another video. Shalom.